Welcome ladies and gentlemen, Tactical Lich here. Today we are featuring the very first multiplayer Chaos Dwarf battle on the channel, though I won't be playing as the Chaos Dwarf myself. Instead, my clanmate here, Parallax, will be fielding the Dowie Jar. In contrast, I'll be bringing my favorite big belly boys, the Ogre Kingdoms here, as I have contemplated an NT Chaos Dwarf build for quite a while. Now, do bear in mind that this was actually played in early access and both of us were playing this matchup for the first time, so some of the builds are not exactly the most optimal. Now, with that in mind, let's have a look at the army builds. With a front line of Nobblers plus Nobbler Trappers, we have a very standard Ogre front line, going really wide with the chaff to slow down enemy advance. At the back, 4 full units of Lead Belchers. Usually I only bring 3, but in this case I really want to overwhelm the Chaos Dwarf with my sheer number of firepower, so we are going full Gunpowder this time. On the flanks there are some Ogre Bulls to provide more melee staying power and beat back flanking units, and at the back 4 whole units of Saber Tusk Packs. I absolutely love these really cost efficient mobility units, especially now that their rampaging mechanic is fixed and they will no longer go on infinite rampage. In the middle here, we have some man-eaters with great weapons guarding the Slaughtermaster. They are a great staying power with anti-large armor piercing, great for dealing with enemy monsters including Bull Santos, Lamassu, and Bale Tauruses. Now for the leadership, we have a Slaughtermaster bringing in Trollguts for healing, the Bone Crusher for some AoE damage just to break those Chaos Dwarf infantry, and then Bull Gorger to buff up some crucial armor piercing melee units, which really is only one unit here, the Man-Eaters with great weapons. As for my opponent, Parallax, he is bringing quite a narrow build with a front line of Goblin Laborers, and then they're backed up by some Chaos Dwarf Blunderbusses, providing some really strong firepower to blast away my front line. And at the back, some Chaos Dwarf Warriors guarding the rear and the flanks, more Chaos Dwarf Warriors at the back, and at the same time, 2 whole Bull Santa Renders with great weapons, providing some very solid anti-large armor piercing fighting power. For the skirmishing forces, we have some Hobgoblin Wolf Riders with bows, and leading the army, a single legendary lord, Ostrogoth Iron Hand, providing a whole bunch of supporting spells, including Cascading Fire Cloak, Black Hammer of Hashut, his unique ability, and also Hell Hammer, providing some area of effect line clearing damage. And that's it for the army builds. Now let's get the battle started. I'm sure many of you have seen games between Chaos Dwarfs and the Ogre Kingdoms, but I still want to showcase this battle to highlight some issues that the Chaos Dwarf face against the Ogre Kingdoms, and what the Ogre Kingdoms have in terms of advantage over the Chaos Dwarfs. First of all, Lead Belchers are just really good against the Chaos Dwarfs. They are a monstrous infantry missile unit. Every single model is a massive ogre, meaning that their health pool is extremely flake compared to regular infantry, and due to their loose spacing plus their low unit model count, they're just not vulnerable to anti-infantry damage. For example, Magma Cannons or Dragquake Mortars will be less effective against them than against enemy infantry. Spells of the Lore of Hashut also has limited effectiveness against them because most of them are area of effect damaging spells. Once again, not great against monstrous infantry. Now, secondly, they also have great range and great missile penetration, making them great at counter-skirmishing enemy missile units. For example, take the Hobgoblin Wolf Raiders here, only 130 range, and they're now being shot up by the Lead Belchers pretty bad, who has 200 range, outranging the Hobgoblin Skirmishing Cavalry. This means the Lead Belchers can sit back at relative safety, dish out the pain with their long-range firepower, while the Nobblers will help them screen away enemy missile threats. This is even worse for the Chaos Dwarf Blunderbusses with only 90 range, heavily outranged by the Lead Belchers. At the same time, the great penetration and armor piercing of the cannonballs will rip them apart. Now my opponent, Parallax, is maneuvering his army uphill, trying to gain a high ground advantage. Though his units are rather short in range, so he needs to start pushing and threatening my artillery before being shot to death. We'll be doing a bit of fast forward here as my opponent tries to push up, but the Goblin Laborers will quickly be routed away by a combination of the Nobbler Trapper Scrap Metal Fire and the Lead Belchers blasting in. On the far side, some idle Dwarf Warriors needs to be activated and start pushing. And at the back here, the Hobgoblin Wolf Raiders are just blasted away by the Lead Belchers, slightly being forgotten by my opponent here. Anyways, the first of the goblin laborers are routed by the missile fire of the ogre kingdoms, and my opponent tried to bunker bust my front line with some bull centers. Indeed, they are a very strong unit. No doubt they can easily push through my nobbler infantry, but the thing is, these are no ordinary nobblers. They are the trapper variant. Their unique ability, the nobbler traps, have been activated. Now the bull centaurs are significantly slowed down, being tied down in melee, allowing my man-eaters to now being activated and countercharged with the support of the Slaughtermaster. Even buffed up by Bull Gorger, they have now 64 melee attack, anti-large, and great armor piercing value, just slaughtering these bull centers in melee. Even if they have the missile resistance to tank out the damage from the lead belchers, the man-eaters will quickly make short work of them. Of course, Estrogov is here just doing some pretty nice damage to my units overall, but unfortunately these bull centers will get absolutely destroyed. At the same time, with the man-eaters and Slaughtermaster tying down the bull centaurs in the middle, the lead belchers at the back needs to start maneuvering as the blunderbusses are closing in. The lead belchers have enough speed to stay out of the blunderbusses' firing zone, while their own superior range allows them to blast away at the Chaos Dwarfs. Same goes for this side here. These lead belchers are blasting away at the Chaos Dwarf warriors, being tied down by nobblers and shot up by nobbler trappers as well, and they won't be holding long in this melee combat. Now, with the first unit of bull centers down, there's a second unit here. Unfortunately, I don't have the resources in place to stop this breach, as the second unit of bull centaur managed to push through the gap while my man-eaters were occupied with the first unit of bull centaurs. This allowed the bull centaurs to get onto my lead belchers, actually destroying one unit already, now getting onto a second unit. I'll be activating my Saber-Tusk pack reserves and charging in to intercept. Thankfully for me, despite the bull centaur's oppressive killing power, they actually are not that tanky. Also, they are quite an expensive unit, while my Saber-Tusk packs are dirt cheap. So I can simply tie them down with the Saber-Tusk pack, extremely cost effective as they do have great weapon strength, and the low armor on the bull centers means that they'll be taking massive damage on the charge, and being hit by a dismember shot up by a crossfire from the lead belchers. The bull centers are taking massive damage, unable to escape, even being charged by the man-eaters right now. Healed by Butcher, they still have quite a few unit models left and can do some pretty nasty damage on impact, plus another Bull Gorger buffing their melee stats and weapon damage, and this second unit of bull centers will also be gone. Unfortunately, the Slaughtermaster is slightly routed as he was taking some damage from Astrogov, and now the Dawizar Lord is going after the lead belchers. Lead belchers, of course, are no match for this old man on a mech suit, so they will just have to start running, but this is fine for the lead belchers because they do have some pretty good speed at 42 and can easily keep themselves ahead of all the slow and sluggish Chaos Dwarf warriors. Especially, I still have some lead belchers on the other side of the battlefield. Some of the routed lead belchers have returned, and they can just turn around and start blasting away at the Chaos Dwarf warriors. While in the middle here, nobblers plus my man-eaters will be charging in to tie down Astrogov's Iron Hand. There are some goblin laborers coming in to support, but they can't really do much here. Gorda's Backstabber does have the mass and speed to stay ahead of my monstrous infantry and will try to snipe out my Slaughtermaster, but a single Trollgut will be keeping him healthy while the rest of my mobility and monstrous units are coming in to support, surrounding Gordas with the Saber-Tusk packs, and the man-eaters being tied down slightly by the goblin laborers who start moving on to surround Astrogov and Gordas. On the far side there, a lot of the Chaos Dwarf infantry are routed away by the nobblers. These Chaos Dwarf blunderbusses return for a bit, but then the lead belchers quickly changed their mind with some very persuasive artillery fire. On the far side as well, Chaos Dwarf warriors being finished off by a combination of Ogre Bulls and Saber-Tusk packs, leaving only a single unit of Chaos Dwarfs in the middle, trying to support their lord and their hero, Gordas and Astrogov. But then the problem is they're still being blocked and beaten up by the Ogre Bulls. The blunderbusses are doing some pretty nasty damage to the Ogre Bulls, but that is just not enough burst damage fast enough, as they are now being tied down and chased down by the Saber-Tusk packs and the Ogre Bulls. And that means all that's left for the Dawizar are the two characters, Gordas and Astrogov, and even Gordas is on the verge of routing, being surrounded by superior melee units. Army losses is hit, and that means the Ogre Kingdoms will be snacking on a new faction tonight. With a quick rundown of the post-battle screen, you can see that the lead belchers did pretty decently over the course of battle. Yes, they got pressured by the bull centaurs, but then the man-eaters were there to intercept and beat back the anti-large fighting force. At the same time, the Saber-Tusk packs are also a very solid anti-mobility unit. One of them was actually forgotten, but the others definitely earned back their own value. As for the Ogre Bulls, this one somehow did pretty decently, beating down the Goblin Laborers and also some of the Chaos Dwarf infantry. Nobblers doing Nobblers things, absorbing damage and just slowing down enemies with the Nobbler traps. And then we have the Slaughtermaster here, not doing much damage, mostly there to provide healing. As for the Chaos Dwarfs, you can see that the Bull Santos, one of them was really good at killing my Lead Belchers, but the others not so much, as it was smashed and eaten up by the Man-Eaters. And then the Chaos Dwarf Warriors, they were just static targets for the Lead Belchers to blast at, so very unfortunate for them, not much value. Same goes for the Blunderbusses. Now for the Goblin Laborers and Goblin Cavalry, not much value either, being pushed away by the Saber-Tusk packs, while the Laborers have such a shit leadership. They only have 36 leadership baseline, so as soon as somebody sneezes next to them, they would just get scared and run away. As for the leadership, Gorda's Backstabber doing some okay damage, not amazing, while Astragoth did some pretty solid damage, beating down some of my Lead Belchers, but then in the end was not able to carry the game. A lot of my units are still quite healthy, and the healing recovering a lot of the balance of power on my end, allowing me to crush the Chaos Dwarfs in terms of balance of power. And that's it for today's video. I hope viewers you enjoyed this very first battle of Chaos Dwarfs. If you want to see more multiplayer action, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. That's it for today, thank you for watching and I'll see you in the next one. Tactical Lich, signing out.